In 2013, movie studios finally gave audiences a modern movie surrounding the classic mystery of the Dylatov Pass Incident in Russia. The Devil's Pass, a found footage film, follows a group of 5 college students who travel to Russia to retrace the steps of the experienced hikers who mysteriously died in February 1959 in the Ural Mountains. Now, in case you're not familiar about the Dylatov Pass Incident, in 1959, 9 experienced Russian hikers ventured into the Ural Mountains and died under strange circumstances, to say the least, leading to numerous theories and questions about what happened, more specifically what happened in the event. Around 11 p.m., the hikers cut a hole in their tent and ran outside in the freezing weather with barely any clothes. The group split up into several groups, with some freezing to death, others showing signs of blunt force trauma when the investigation started or concluded. Even more strange, there was radiation found on several of the people who died. So the group were very experienced hikers, and no one has ever been able to really prove what happened. There's been theories such as it was an avalanche or obscure weather phenomenon have been proposed, but all seem to have flaws. There's much more that can be said about this on this incident, and I'll discuss it a little bit more later in the video. But in general, the event still remains a mystery, with many researching it still today all over the world. One of the biggest, I think, of those types of mysteries that we see, certainly out of Russia. Now, coming back to the movie, 5 students from the University of Oregon decided to head out to the Ural Mountains in Russia, being led by documentary filmmaker Holly Goss, played by actress Holly King. In addition, Holly recruits 2 experienced college hikers, a cameraman, and a sound person. Now, much of what happens in the beginning doesn't make a ton of sense here. Is it really realistic for 5 college kids to take on this type of adventure? Now, a better option, I think, would have been to have some older, very experienced hikers, people who have climbed Mount Everest, and also, a veteran documentary filmmaker actually go on this trip. I think it would have been more intriguing. This isn't a huge deal or a deal breaker, in my opinion, though. Soon the group travels to Russia to do a few quick interviews, and for some reason, they have no idea how they're going to get to the trailhead, which is 40 miles from where they are. So they plan this entire trip, but they had no plan to get to the final destination. Okay, regardless, they hop in the back of a pickup truck, get to the town where they will begin, and also begin the hike, and also interview a woman who was one of the rescuers in the 1959 Dylatov Pass Incident. Of course, this is fictional right here. They're just blending a little bit of fiction, which is fine for a movie like this. Now, she tells them 12 people died that day, not 9, and that doesn't really make sense till the end of the movie why she says that. So the group takes off on their hike, and before you know it, strange things begin. There's massive footprints outside the tent. Even more strange, the footsteps seem to stop abruptly, like someone was just dropped off. Now, the group presses on and eventually ends up in the Dylatov Pass. Things get even more strange, though. Holly soon finds a metal door in the mountain, and Playboy JP, known for the trail hookup, who bragged about hiking the Appalachian Trail, his navigation instruments are going haywire. Now, nervous, the group plans on leaving in the morning, but someone sets off explosives and an avalanche ensues, killing the sound girl and also wounding JP really bad. The group soon realizes that there's Russian soldiers that triggered the avalanche and want to kill them. And here the mystery of the movie really dies. I thought this was a big mistake. In my opinion, the strength of this movie resides in not knowing and the theories, but the writers chose to pursue the answer about what actually happened on that mountain. A better route would have been to suggest several things and kind of leave audiences wondering or even debating. And I get it, a lot of people don't like that. But for me personally, I think in this type of movie, this type of mystery, which is such a mystery, has so many conflicts and so many things don't make sense. it would have been better in this sort of circumstance. So with no gear and being basically forked, Holly and Jensen soon break into the underground bunker where that metal door was, and soon discover the original event was linked to the Philadelphia experiment and teleportation. Now, in the end, Holly and Jensen are forced to go through a teleportation device and end up dead back in 1959. And this is what that woman was talking about right before they left when she said there was 12 corpses. Holly, Jensen. It doesn't really make sense here. Only 2 teleported or time traveled. I'm not sure who the third was. If you know, definitely comment. Let me know. So once they enter the metal door, I really thought that the film went down from here. There was 30 minutes left in the movie, and it was just like, oh, come on. And what started, I think, is a pretty promising movie soon ends and left me definitely unsatisfied with the ending. I suppose not answering the question might not be the route, but teleportation and military experiments, come on. It would have been better just to go with aliens or Yeti or possibly a mysterious tribe. There's actually one up there, and that's one of the popular theories. I can't remember the name of it, but a lot of people propose the theory that tribe actually, attacked them in the middle of the night, and that's why they had to run out. Now, I think it was actually found out that wasn't the case. They went and interviewed the tribe, and they, basically said no, and the people who interviewed said okay. But coming back to the Dylatov Pass incident, now the leading theory here seems to be the group heard an avalanche starting, cut out of their tents, and ran away hoping not to be buried. Now, in a panic, they went in different directions and couldn't find their way back to the tents in the pitch darkness. Now, while an avalanche seems to make sense on the surface, it's what I really thought initially. None of the evidence, interestingly, supports it. When the bodies were found, there was a very shallow layer of snow. Also, many have traveled in this area, hiked this area after the event, and no avalanches have ever been reported. Even more strange, the analysis shows that even if one had occurred on that mountain, it would have gone right past their tent. On top of all this, this was an extremely experienced group, and there's no way they would have chosen to camp right below a mountain that was at risk of an avalanche. And I guess you could say there that how would they know it's, if an avalanche is about to happen, yes or no, is at risk. I'm not an expert, obviously, on hiking snow mountain in the snow like that, but if you are, definitely comment. But it seems like that was another big thing. A lot of people pointed out that it would have been very strange for them to camp at a place that was at risk. So while the avalanche theory seems to make sense on the surface, the evidence does not support it. Could the group have ran off believing an avalanche was going to hit? Possibly, but why were there traces of radiation? Also, what about the skull fractures 2 of the hikers sustained? It doesn't seem like the evidence doesn't show that they just fell and hit their head on a rock. It looks like someone literally picked up a rock and just smashed it on their head. Coming back to the film, the movie started pretty strong, but kind of went downhill. Still, I have no regret watching it as it dives into this fascinating mystery, and I would recommend giving it a shot if you haven't seen it, or maybe you haven't seen it in a long time. But if you've seen it, let me know what you think. Thanks for the time.